Welcome to the Red Velvet Cake Studio, Mr. Al B. Shore! Exclamation points.
Wow, good to see you. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, and good to see you back. I'm sure everyone's been asking, where is Al B. Shore? What's he been doing? So, I understand you've been doing a little radio hosting. You've been doing a whole plethora of things. Tell us where you've been and what you've been up to.
Well, I think that first of all, it's a blessing being here, and specifically with Tom Joyner. Tom was one of the first human beings on the planet to play an Albie Show record.
Really?
Absolutely, back when he was the fly jock, and so Tom has always been a blessing in my life, and I always talk about the story. When I first started, it was the Sony Innovators,
Oh,
and Tom was one of the judges on the Sony Innovators, and Tom Joyner, what a blessing! Just Tom being one of the first human beings on the planet to play an Albie Show record on the radio. Back when he was a fly jock and would fly from Dallas to Chicago, and
yep.
before the whole technology syndication thing, where he can actually sit in this beautiful studio and just be all over the planet. So for the most part, I mean, he's been that origin from the gate. In addition to when I was first signed to Warner Brothers way back in the day with Benny Medina and the entire staff there. What an amazing conglomerate of just warm people and like a family atmosphere that truly just got behind the record, and which shows many years later in 15 number ones, and from the Jodeci's and Usher and
That's
Albie
right.
Shore and everyone who came through my camp, from Faith Evans to Dave Hollister, Teddy Riley being one of my mentors as well, and of course the man himself, Mr. Quincy Jones. Like it's been a true blessing, and people have come up to me and said, "Hey, where you been? What you been doing?" I enjoyed so much being behind the scenes in terms of assisting others in reaching their goals and just their dreams, goals, and aspirations that I wanted to do what we call the Q stretch. My godfather Quincy Jones always talked about not being afraid to expand your portfolio and do different things outside of just getting on stage and singing or hitting the studio. So I had a great opportunity to work with this guy you may have heard of named Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx.
Absolutely. What a brilliant
Yes, he
master
is.
of his craft.
He
In
is.
so many different ways. I met Jamie way back in the day at, of course, on the set of Living Color.
Mm-hmm.
And, just to see him evolve into this superstar mogul and do what we call the Q stretch outside of just, living his dream and do. I've known Jamie for a while, so I know that music is one of his biggest loves.
Yes.
So, we had an opportunity to work together on I'm executive producer along with Marcus and along with Jamie and Gary Reeves on his HBO special, I Might Need Security.
Oh, okay.
And, there was a great opportunity to work with Jamie and just to see, and this is before the Oscar. And, he's one of those cats who never forgets. And, I got to give a big shout out to Jamie because no matter what he does or where you see Jamie will always remind me. He says, you helped me out with this and, so on and so forth. So big shout out to Jamie and not being like the rest, and that's, like I said, one of the inspirations for the new album, Honey, I'm Home. Finally, after 15 plus years, a brand new Albie Show album on Hidden Beach Recordings, Universal Music Group. And this album consists of basically the common denominators and all of the lessons learned from actually doing what Tom Joyner does, doing radio over the years. Of course, Tom has been one of my inspirations, a major inspiration in terms of doing radio and his longevity and his reach and
Reach media, no pun intended.
No pun intended, right? Just in terms of just his consistency and what he went through to, at the beginning before the technology kicked in, when he was able to sit, like I said, in the studio like this and be able to do it from one place. I mean, he loved it so much. But it's the same thing I would tell anyone. It's the same advice I would give any young person, especially any young man. You tell him, if you don't love her, leave her alone. And it's the same thing when people ask me about, what would you tell somebody in the music business? So it's the same thing. If you don't love it, leave it alone, because this is a big monster. And taking on this project after so many years, of course, I had my doubts, as any normal musician would have, by saying, hey, is anybody going to remember me? And then there's this thing called Facebook and Twitter and MySpace. and I'm getting mail from Zimbabwe, Australia, Germany, London, New York, Iowa, Little Rock. I mean, Dallas. I mean, just everywhere. And the most amazing part about it, it was, the common denominator has been very simple. People have said, why, where are you? What are you doing? We read about different things, and we know you're producing this in television, and, we know about Jodeci and Rod Stewart and David Bowie and Diana Ross and Barry White. And I'm hearing all these things, and I'm sitting there saying to myself, going, wow, people really care and they're interested. So why not pick up my craft? I mean, it's great that I had an opportunity to go back to what we said before, do the Q stretch, which is, expanding your portfolio. I was blessed enough to serve as vice president of Motown of A&R, to produce Jamie Foxx's HBO special, to, be on tour with New Edition and Bobby Brown. Growing up, I remember just sitting, I got a whooping because I took my mother's record player apart to put it in my room when she was at work, and I would take the New Edition records and I would sit in the room and play the records, and I would sit there and try to duplicate whatever they were singing in Candy Girl, I would do all this stuff. And just to imagine, years later, we're at Madison Square Garden in front of 20,000 people. We're at the Forum in LA. We're doing these major cities, and it all started from writing these songs on the back of a lunch bag in the hallways or in the lunchroom at Mount Vernon High School. I mean, what a dream. Imagine that. Imagine sitting in the basement with Kyle West. We done ruined my uncle's pool table because we set up the pool table, but we put all the equipment on top of the pool table, writing songs. And then all of a sudden I'm in another continent. Let's say we visit Japan. And I remember my first tour was with Karen White. We're in Japan, and I'm watching a sea of 10,000 Japanese citizens sing every note of Night and Day, make every ugly face I used to make. Come on, I've done the study. I know the whole thing. So, it's been that amazing, and just to see how music is so big and how it touches so many people from the entire world, just like the internet.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, and and like I said to you. You got to give thanks to people like Tom Joyner, who just didn't take no for an answer, and just, before it became popular to do radio with celebrities and so on and so forth, Tom just basically grinded it out and became an inspiration to so many different people. You remember Frankie Crocker and Vaughn Harper, and of course I grew up in New York, so I know all of the New York personalities. But man, it's been so much of a blessing, and like I said, with this album. The new album, Honey, I'm Home, which actually we have a website too. You go to hiddenbeach.com/Al B. Shore. And basically, I wanted to challenge the world. This is something I was just having a conversation with Eric Benet. I talked to Avant about it. I talked to, Bobby. I talked to, a bunch of the artists that are in our generation. And I said, what? I want to make everyone a wager and a bet that we can actually have a hit record without calling women H's and B's.
Well, look at that. And from what I understand, too, you're trying to bring the romance back into music. Bringing
the romance back to music. I enjoy the lingerie. I enjoy the dinner. I enjoy the conversation,
Keep talking. No, go ahead. Keep talking.
No, but you know what I mean? I mean, it's something for us.
Yeah.
I mean, and all I'm trying to do is, I'm not trying to be Bobby Brown. I'm not trying to be Keith Sweat. I'm their biggest fans. I just want to be Al B. Shore and drive in my lane right up the middle. Just imagine even having the opportunity to work with Teddy Riley, sitting in the projects when he was programming on this little tiny drum machine and working on this guy named Keith Sweat. I mean, as huge as Keith is, I mean, just being there from the origin of watching these artists just from the embryonic stage and just blowing up and just, I feel so blessed to be a part of the fabric of what music is and part of the culture of music. And I was even more excited when I was in a bookstore and I saw my name several times in the history of music. I called my mom on the phone and I said, Reverend Mac, she's like, yes, Albert. And I said, I'm in the bookstore, and I just wanted to say thank you because you really motivated me to do what I was doing. As much as you said, you got to go to school and do this, and you got a scholarship, just all these other things that I could have been doing. And of course, when that man, Mr. Quincy Jones, calls and says, "Go west, young man," you kind of got to go west, young man.
You sure do. You have to answer the call,
You got
the
it.
cue calls, right?
Of course. Well, that what is that thing? That little thing he did, Thriller.
Right.
Yeah. So you might want to listen to Quincy Jones.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, who would have ever thought that lyrics on a brown paper bag would turn into multi-platinum albums? And we are so happy that you have come back and come to our studios to bless us with "Honey, I'm Home." 12 tracks you've co-wrote on the entire album.
Yeah.
And
Except for the two remakes. I did 2 remakes this time, which was a decision that Bruce Walker and myself and Steve McKeever, discussed about, should we do 1 remake or 2 remakes? And when I do a remake, I never do it in the vein of, trying to outdo the artist. I do it out of appreciation and love for that particular song. Of course, Mr. Rod Temperton, what an amazing author, writer, and artist himself, where, I remade Lady in My Life by Michael Jackson. And also one of my favorite artists of all time, Sting, I remade Fragile. So, I trust that everyone likes it. And what I did was I basically continued to drive in my lane. I just took their version and gave my own interpretation as an artist of what I felt from that particular song and music. And, I trust and hope that everyone embraces this particular album. I mean, "Honey, I'm Home" is from doing radio for the last, I won't even mention this, from doing radio for the last 10 years, and having 70 stations doing the Secret Garden show and doing the Los Angeles show and doing everything else like that. Imagine every single day outside of playing music and taking phone calls. What if Flavor Flav called me the Black Dr. Phil? Not that I'm qualified, but people would call up every day. Just imagine speaking to 20, 30, 40, 50 people a day and them telling you their problems. They're telling you their issues. Oh, and then they share with you, when your song was out, I was getting a divorce, or I was going through finals. It's like mental gymnastics. So you have to adjust to each person's situation and personality and share with them. Because I'm not a doctor. All I can do is share with my experiences with you. And that's what I did with this album. I just took each song. I took a common denominator of what was going on in my life and something was going on in their life. And you'd be surprised. People from all walks of life, black, white, blue, green, purple, go through some of the same exact things.
It doesn't matter the status. It doesn't matter race. It's just everyone has issues, is what we like to say.
Absolutely.
And everybody has issues that need to be heard. And of course, you're telling everyone's experiences, including your own, I'm sure, through your newest album. But I want to thank you for coming out to speaking to our fans on blackamericaweb.com.
blackamericaweb.com.
And for joining us for your in-studio jam on the Tom Joyner Morning Show. I'll be sure. I'd say he's back, but apparently he never left.
Well, you know what? Remember what LL said. Don't call it a comeback. Let's just call it part 2.
You can hear part 2 on Al B. Sure's new album, "Honey, I'm Home." Go out and grab it. I'm Erica Taylor, and you're watching blackamericaweb.com.
blackamericaweb.com. I like how you say that.